Well, hey there, welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and other forms of rock music. So we're working on our series now. This is a series of rock musicians who thrilled us but have since passed on. This is episode number 30. I know it was supposed to be out this morning, but it's Good Friday, and Good Friday required many things to be done today, so I didn't get a chance to do it till now. So this is our episode 30 from 1994. Features a couple of pretty prominent people, I think. Well, one of them's very prominent. The other guy, not so prominent as far as knowing who he is, but very prolific session musician. Okay, so the first guy we're doing, of course, is grunge founder, probably the guy who put grunge music on the map. At least the band put it on the map, but he was the main part of the band. And we're talking about Kurt Cobain here. Gave the music its boost with their album, and allowed for a lot of other bands to then become dominant. Okay, so anyways, I don't know much about Kurt Cobain. I do know some of the songs, of course. Have to be on another planet not to know who he was or who they were. The grunge music is not a form of music that I listen to. Having said that, I do have several grunge albums from different bands, including, of course, Nirvana and Soundgarden. Soundgarden I kind of like a little bit, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not a huge grunge fan. I don't really have any particular issue against them. It's just not a form of music that I generally listen to. But I don't see how you could do 1994 without bringing up Kurt Cobain. Okay, so Kurt Cobain, the vitals on him. Where are my glasses? Right there. The vitals on Kurt Cobain. He was born February the 20th, 1967 in Aberdeen, Washington. Which is kind of weird since it says he came from Ireland. My research showed that he came from Ireland via Kingston, Canada, or not Kingston, Cornwall and Ontario, Canada, and then ended up in Washington. So was he born in Ireland and then made the trip here, or maybe that was referring to his parents? It's kind of weird the way they phrased it. I'm assuming he was his parents came from not Ireland, from England. Sorry, or maybe it was Ireland. Yeah, it was Ireland. Sorry, I'm getting confused here. Anyways, I think his parents came from Ireland, stayed in Cornwall, Canada, and then made their way to Washington, and then he was born there. That's what I think happened. And of course, if I'm wrong, people will correct me, which is good. I had a couple corrections this week because of stuff I misunderstood. Okay, so anyways, he was born in Aberdeen, Washington. He died April the 5th, 1994, at the age of 27, thus making him part of the 27 group, or whatever they call it. Seattle, Washington was where he died, or where he was found dead. And of course, he died there. If he was found there, then he died there. Kind of a weird thing to say. Anyways, the music he played in was grunge, alternative rock, and punk, and some hard rock as well. Primarily a vocalist with guitar abilities. He was active from 1982 to 94, and he was married to Courtney Love. It was his wife, the Courtney Love fame, of course. Anyways, I'm going to read you a little bit about his history and stuff. I don't want to get into a big, long history because, there's so much of it. He's one of those people, because of his fame, every micro detail of his life was examined with a micro detail examiner, like a microscope. It's really not all that complicated. He had troubles as a child. His parents broke up. He had a problem with that. He suffered from anxiety and depression, which seems to be the common trend of nowadays. The big disease to suffer from. Anyways, as a young person, he had artistic ability, and his aunt was his grandmother pushed him a little bit to become an artist. Of course, being the type of person he was, any kind of push in any direction he rebelled against, because he rebelled against everything. That was his nature. He became interested in music at a young age, singing songs from people like Arlo Guthrie and the Beatles and Terry Jacks and the Monkees, and his personality changed when his parents divorced. So up until that point, he was probably a fairly happy-go-lucky individual, although I don't know if that really is what he was, but he was not a person overly troubled. Once his parents divorced, he took on a huge resentment, I think, and became very hostile and rebellious in nature. I guess for some people, it doesn't happen with everybody, but some people can see the realities that some parents don't belong together, and so it's best that they're separated. Other people take it personal. They're very sensitive, and everything bothers them after that. And so that's, I believe, what his case was. Okay, so he did live with his father for a while, but then his father, who had promised apparently not to get married, then got married. I don't know how you can make promises like that, and why people would hold them up to those promises, I don't get. But it offended him. He got married, but then the lady turned out to be a maternal. Like, she took him on and made him feel good about himself until he had a little brother born. And like so many people, the brother, being a baby, demanded more attention because he was a baby, and he had a great problem with that. He didn't like it, and so then he ended up moving back with his he ended up becoming a problem for his dad, so his dad sent him to live with a Christian family, and he did develop some Christian attitudes and stuff like that and started being involved with it, but then he rebelled against even that. When he was younger, he met Roger Osborne, and they did kind of the rock thing together with a band called the Melvins. They would sing outside of stores downtown. Anyways, when he was in high school, he went to live with his mother. Then she kicked him out. He found out he was kicked out when all of his stuff was packed and everything was all left out, because she had told him he needed to get a job or get out. So he didn't get the job, so out he went. He lived by himself on the street for a while. Then eventually got with a girl named Tracy Martin. You'll have to excuse me, my throat's a little tight today. I hope I'm not getting something. She and him had arguments because she insisted he work, and he didn't want to work, so he didn't do that, and they had problems together, caused arguments, and then it led him to write that song about a girl, which I guess is a hit of his. And then after that, they broke up, and he started dating Toby Vale of the punk band called Riot Girl. I think that's what it was. Anyways, that didn't work out because he wanted more of a motherly image. She was looking for a mother to take care of him because his mother had broke up with his father and he had lost that. And then the girlfriend that he had taken on also had that motherly image, and then his stepmother had the motherly image, but each of them pushed him away for some reason. and he was always looking for that. So this girl, of course, was anti-sexist, a very very sexist person, and she had lots of guys, and she had lots of relationships with lots of guys, and considered that part of her growing experience, which I guess he didn't care for either. So, anyways, they didn't stay together, and then he formed a band he formed the band History with the Fecal Matter. Okay, so that was the name of the band, and then that eventually became Nirvana, or they broke, and then he formed Nirvana with Novel. I don't know if I got this guy's name right. I know Novoselic, yeah, Novoselic. And then they did an album, and it did okay, I guess. But then the drummer didn't work out, so they got Dave Grohl, and then from that point they put out their second album, which became a massive album, massive in the United States, massive worldwide, put grunge on the map, and I guess again he resented that because he didn't think people got what he was trying to get at. So again, he rebelled. I kind of understand this guy a bit, but he was a rebel, and wasn't happy, and had depression. He had lifelong depression, and he never could quite calm it, but he developed a heroin addiction. Now, my opinion is that depression and heroin are a bad combination. This will lead to big problems, which it did. Okay, so eventually eventually the band was huge, doing a lot of drugs, not getting along with a lot of people, being sick all the time, and went back home, and he had tried to overdose at least one time that I know of, and then he went home and disappeared. Nobody could find him, and he apparently shot himself with a shotgun and killed himself, and they found him about 3 days after he died. And this blew up. His whole persona was blown up and became a bit of an icon, I guess, for that time period. Maybe the greatest rock icon of the 90s. Certainly right up there. I can't even think of anybody who's even close to him. But anyways, he died, and he was post-honorable. He was eventually, the whole band was inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, I've said a lot about the guy. I don't really know him that well. I don't know enough about his music or his real motivation. I had to pick him because he's the most iconic figure of this year, maybe the most iconic of the 90s, of the last 30 maybe, even, I don't know. So you can't not do him. He's part of the group of 27. These are people that died when they were 27. Most of them took place in the early 70s and late 60s, but he definitely belongs in with this group. Very influential. Put grunge on the map, I believe. And even though they only did the 3 albums, they're well known. And I just think he was a troubled individual. Troubled from his childhood on. Never quite got past the trouble, like the depression or the anxiety or all of the things that go with it. Never quite was able to accept any kind of... Basically, his problem was, Dave Grohl put it succinctly, is that he just didn't love himself, so it made it real difficult for anybody else to love him. And that's the biggest issue that I see. Unfortunately, that led to his demise at such a young age, with so many gifts. Like he wrote, he was one of the biggest rock stars in history. Anyways, he's gone, but he will never be forgotten, I don't think. Again, not somebody I have much to do with as far as my musical history is concerned, but you gotta give kudos to where kudos belong. The guy put this movement on the map, and it may very well be the last movement of iconic type rock stars. There hasn't really been, in the last 30 years, any real iconic musicians come out. When I say iconic, I'm not talking about people who sold albums or who did well, but have become somewhat very legendary. There's not a lot of that. Certainly not in this century, anyways. That legendary music status is now in a totally different genre. However, I'm not going to get into debates about that. I just feel that this guy had to be done. He was just too influential to not to do. Okay, so my second guy, and then I'll do my honorable mentions at the other end, is a completely different story here. Completely, utterly different story. He wasn't iconic in any way, shape, or form, really. I didn't even know he existed until I did this. But after reading through a bunch of people, I decided to pick him just because he played with so many bands that it'd be hard to list them all here. Just, the list is endless. So we'll start with it. His name is Nick Hopkins. He was a piano keyboardist, I guess is the best way to put him. Born February 24th, 1944 in Perryville, Middlesex, England. And he died September the 6th, 1994 at the age of 50 in Nashville, Tennessee in the USA. His music was rock and roll. He did do some boogie woogie, whatever that is, and blues. His instrument was keyboards, although I think he was primarily a piano player. Years active, 1960 to 1994. Again, not both these people I didn't know very much about, so I've read a lot, and then I listened to some of Nirvana's music, and they listed some of the people he had played with, that I looked at all the albums, and many of those albums I have listened to, so I have, a lot more connection to this guy than I originally thought, just because he played with so many people, and I've heard a lot of his playing and not knowing it was him. Anyways, he won a scholarship when he was young to the Royal Academy of Music, which he went to and was there till he was 16. Then he left for a couple of years to pursue a career in music. He suffered lifelong from Crohn's disease, which eventually would be his undoing. He played on every Rolling Stones album in the early years and toured with them early, but ill health, of course, stopped him from touring, and because he just couldn't do it. It was too hard on him. He played with like a horde of bands, from the Kinks, The Who, Jeff Beck, Rod Stewart, Jefferson Airplane, The Beatles, the Steve Miller Band, and there's like a horde of people under that, even, that I could list. I could spend half an hour listening to people he played with. He was a session musician, basically, and having played with all these people, because he was good, they liked his piano style, so he played with a lot of these well-known people. So it would be virtually impossible, if you're in this rock genre, to not have heard him play. There's just so many people that he's played with. Kind of like Jeff Beccaro the other day, when I were doing Jeff Beccaro. He was the same, but as a drummer. He played with hordes of people. A well sought after session musician too. Okay, so anyways, he did play on some Ron L. Hubbard stuff, and eventually became a Scientologist. So, nobody's perfect. I'm not going to say any more about it. But he was considered a member of the Quicksilver Messenger. The guy who ran Quicksilver Messenger did his best to try and be good to all these guys, and he was one of them. So he was listed as a member of Quicksilver Messenger, a band I've listened to a few times. They're pretty good. I like them. Very psychedelic, though. He did produce 3 solo albums. I don't recognize any of them. I'm pretty sure I haven't heard any of the stuff off of them. And, of course, he didn't tour with them, so That's part of making them successful, I think. And so anyways, the final note about him is that he died as a result of surgery to his intestines that was related to his Crohn's disease. 50 years, still pretty young, I think. Very gifted musician from all accounts. Don't know much about him, but now that I know he's played on a lot of these albums, and many of these albums, the Who ones especially, I'm very familiar with, but a lot of the stuff I'm going to go back and listen to over the next few days just to get a kind of a feel for what type of a keyboardist, piano or player he was. So you have it, Nick Hopkins. I guess we could call him a Quicksilver Messenger or as a session musician, one or the other. You choose. I'm okay with either. And I wanted to honor him, and I wanted to honor Kurt Cobain. Those are the two I chose today. So there are some honorable mentions. Sorry, I just had to move that back. Finding the light a little blinding in here. I'm not tired today, though. That's good. So anyways, other people that I think deserve to be mentioned today because they passed in the same year are Victor Lombardo, obviously the brother of Guy Lombardo, Jimmy, well, I can't even read Jimmy Miller, sorry, a producer. He was a producer. I wanted to give some, because he produced a lot of stuff that I recognized. Rhett Forrester from Riot, Papa John Kretsch from Jefferson, Airplane, Starship, so he played with them all. Of course, Dinah Shore from the big band era. Fred Sonic Smith from MC5. Chet Panner, also from Quicksilver Messenger. Harold Lucas and John Bailey, both from the Cloves, for different dates for different reasons. They didn't die together, is what I'm trying to say. Robert Sadler from the blues singer. Derek Leckenby from Herman's Hermits. Kristen Puff from Hole and Janitor Joe. She was a punk musician. Gary Farr from T-Bone. And Ken Montgomery from the Four Horsemen. And yeah. So those are the honorable mentions today. And there was others too, but you can't do everybody. So I tried to do the ones to spread it out a bit so that it wasn't all about one particular area or another particular area. So I tried to give a little to some people either that I thought they were interesting people, or I knew them or not personally, but I knew of them, or I had heard stuff from them. So there you have it, 1994's series of rock musicians who thrilled us but have since passed on. That was episode 30. Should have came out this morning, but it's going to come out now. And then later tonight, around 8 o'clock, will be my Friday night live experience. I think I have an idea of which one I'm going to do, but I'm not 100% sure yet, and I don't want to jump the gun, so I'll wait until it comes out. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, like and subscribe. Tell me if you know anything about these people. I'm sure there'll be quite a bit of stuff about Kurt Cobain. Just let me know how you feel, or did I get any of this stuff wrong? Probably I did. It's tough to follow a lot of this stuff. There's so much of it. Anyways, I am glad to have done this today, and I hope you had fun listening. And so you have a good evening, and we'll see you later on Friday Night Live experience. And take care, and Prog Monster out.